My boss tried to take credit for my achievements, so I spoke up in front of the whole department. You ever have that gut deep feeling that someone's robbing you blind, but instead of your wallet, they're stealing your damn dignity? That was me. I was 6 months into a project that was supposed to tank. That's what everyone thought. They gave it to me because no one else wanted it. Low priority, they said. Try your best, but don't stress it, they shrugged. Translation: if you fail, nobody cares. If you succeed, someone else gets the credit. Well, guess what? I didn't fail. I rebuilt that project from scratch. Late nights. Missed weekends. Cancelled dates. I went so far down the rabbit hole that I forgot what daylight looked like. I even pulled in external partners, optimized systems, ran beta tests with 90% success rates, and did a full-scale rollout ahead of schedule. I had the data, the charts, the client testimonials, the whole damn package. And when the results finally started making waves? My boss, Richard, suddenly started showing up to every meeting with a smug smile and my talking points loaded on his iPad like he wrote them himself. He even had the gall to refer to his strategy in front of the executive team. I kept quiet the first time. Maybe I misheard. Gave him the benefit of the doubt. The second time, I caught his eye across the boardroom table, and I swear he looked at me like, "You gonna say something?" But I didn't. Not yet. Because I was planning something. Something bigger. Richard was a classic corporate chameleon. Slick suits, big words, not a single ounce of original thought. He built his entire career on knowing which coattails to ride and when to jump off. And now, mine had become his latest vehicle to glory. At first, I thought it would blow over. That someone would notice it was me putting in the hours while Richard just wandered around with his latte and buzzwords. But the more he got away with it, the bolder he became. Emails started coming in: "Great work, Richard. Brilliant execution, Richard." I wasn't even CC'd on half of them. Like I was a ghost. The final straw? A performance review meeting. Not mine, his. Our VP stood in front of the department and congratulated Richard for leading the transformation initiative. People clapped. Some nodded. One guy literally said, "Well deserved, man." I was standing at the back of the room, clutching my coffee so hard my knuckles went white. That's when I decided I was done being quiet. The next all-hands meeting was in 2 weeks. Every department, every exec, the whole damn circus. And I had a plan. I started gathering receipts. Emails. Timestamps. Screenshots of Slack convos. Project drafts. My own private server logs. Even a couple of screen recordings from Zoom meetings where I pitched ideas that he later recycled as his own. This was going to be a fireworks show, and I was done waiting for the right moment. I was going to make one. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of 150 people with a USB drive in my pocket, a steel spine, and the kind of fire in my chest that only betrayal can kindle. And then? Then I dropped a bomb. The week before the all-hands meeting felt like I was walking through fire barefoot. Richard was on cloud 9, smiling like a man who just conned his way into a promotion, floating through the office like he farted rainbows. He even gave me a pep talk. "Keep grinding, you're doing great. It'll pay off eventually," he said, patting me on the back like he was the goddamn mentor in a sports movie. I smiled. Nodded. Said, "Thanks, Richard. Appreciate the guidance." Because when you're planning to torch someone in public, you don't warn them by lighting a match in private. Now here's what I didn't mention earlier: I had an ally. 2, actually. First was Rachel from HR. She and I had shared more than a few eye rolls in meetings where Richard over-explained my own work. One afternoon, I pulled her into a coffee room and said, hypothetically, if someone in a leadership position was claiming credit for something they didn't do, how should that be handled? Her eyes narrowed. Is this about Richard? Bingo. She didn't confirm anything right then. But a few days later, she slid me a printed email thread, Richard forwarding my reports with his signature cropped into the top and no mention of my name. She just said, "You didn't get this from me," and walked off. Second was Devin, our IT guy and professional chaos gremlin. I asked him if the company recorded Zoom meetings for internal projects. He nodded and said, "Yup. We auto-backup them to a private archive for 6 months. Can you get me the February 12th meeting? The one where I presented the full deck? His eyes twinkled. You want it with captions? God bless Devon. So I put together a presentation of my own. It was subtle, nothing flashy, no finger pointing. Just a clear, chronological walkthrough of the project, idea inception, milestones, metrics, execution. Each slide had a receipt. Each result was backed up. Every contribution was timestamped, and guess who wasn't present for half of it? Richard. I didn't show it to anyone. I kept it close, like a loaded weapon. I even rehearsed how I'd drop it in, just in case the moment didn't come naturally. But oh boy, it did. Because Richard, drunk on his own imaginary power, couldn't keep his mouth shut. The day of the all-hands meeting arrived. Packed room. Executives in the front row. Richard had been asked to say a few words about the team's recent success with the transformation pilot. He strutted up to the mic like he was accepting an Oscar. He launched into a speech about vision, leadership, delegation. He even said, and I quote, "You've got to know when to empower your people and when to lead from the front." I felt the heat crawl up my neck. Then, and I swear this was divine intervention, our VP interrupted him. Actually, I'd love to hear from someone who was hands-on with this project. Maybe the person who was in the trenches? The room went quiet. I stood up. Walked to the front. Plugged in my USB drive. And I said, I think it's time we talk about what really happened over the last 6 months. You could hear a pin drop. Then I clicked to the first slide. The first slide was clean, just a timeline with 3 milestone dates. A few murmurs rolled through the crowd as people realized I wasn't giving a regular update. This wasn't fluff. This was a courtroom. I clicked to the next slide, screenshots of the initial project proposal I had written back in December. My name stamped in the header. Draft notes. Time logs. A recording thumbnail of a Zoom meeting where I pitched the foundational idea to the team. Here's where we started, I said, voice steady, hands not even shaking. This proposal was drafted on my personal work drive. Shared on Slack with timestamps. Richard was out on PTO during this entire week. I looked up. Richard was frozen mid-smile. Probably calculating how fast he could fake a heart attack. Next slide. This, I continued, is from our development sprint 2. Here's the full process doc, notes from the weekly stand-ups, and screenshots of internal bug tickets. All submitted under my credentials. All tested by me. And here, I clicked again, is a short video from our February Zoom review, where I walked through the prototype. I hit play. There I was, on screen, talking the team through our functionality updates. I even paused it at the moment Richard joined halfway through, 38 minutes late, mute on, camera off. Didn't say a word. I let that image hang in the air. A few people shifted in their seats. One guy whispered, "Holy SH." I moved on. Slide after slide, I showed the data. The redesign mockups. The A/B testing results. The user surveys I ran, analyzed, and compiled. I even pulled up email threads showing how Richard forwarded my deliverables to upper management, with his name swapped in the header and no credit to me or the rest of the team. Then I dropped the final bombshell. This was the feedback from our biggest client, I said, switching to a video testimonial. The client, a VP from one of our largest accounts, was praising our implementation. The guy who ran this project was phenomenal, he said. I think his name was Derek? That's me. Not Richard. I turned to face the room. I want to be clear, I'm proud of this project. And I don't need applause. But when leadership misrepresents who did the work, that's not just unethical, it's dangerous. For morale, for retention, for our integrity as a company. Silence. Then, from the back, a slow, quiet clap. Rachel from HR. Then Devon. Then more. A ripple turned into a wave. The VP, the one who'd asked for the hands-on perspective, leaned forward and said, "Why didn't we see this earlier?" I looked at Richard. He was pale. Sweating. He didn't say a word. I just replied, I thought the results would speak for themselves. But I was wrong. So here I am, speaking. Mic drop. I didn't even wait for the fallout. I turned, unplugged my USB, walked back to my seat. But I already knew everything was about to change. You ever walk away from a moment and just know you lit a match and dropped it in gasoline? That's what the next 24 hours felt like. The minute I sat back down, Richard stood up, slow, shaky, like a dude realizing the stage he was on had turned into a firing squad. He mumbled something about collaborative environments and miscommunications, but no one was listening. Because the truth was already out. And it was loud. I watched the VP lean over to our director and whisper something. Director nodded. Richard kept babbling for another minute, eyes darting toward me, but nobody was backing him up. The room had gone from polite applause to pin-drop silence. The rest of the meeting limped along like a wounded animal. Nobody really paid attention to the next few presenters. Every conversation afterward started with, "Yo, what the hell was that?" or "Did you know it was that bad?" Some people came up to shake my hand. Others just gave that slow, respectful nod like, "Damn, you did it." I left the room calm, but inside? I was still on fire. Adrenaline? Off the charts. By the time I got back to my desk, I already had an email waiting for me, meeting request, urgent HR plus department director. Scheduled for 3 p.m. Oh, here we go. I walked in that meeting like it was a job interview for CEO. Rachel was there, cool as ice, giving me the tiniest smirk. Our department director sat with his arms folded. And Richard? He wasn't invited. Good. The conversation kicked off with the director saying, "Well, that was unexpected." I kept my posture relaxed. I tried the normal channels. Documenting, sharing credit. But after months of being sidelined? I decided to speak up. Rachel nodded. And you backed it up thoroughly. That was the keyword, thoroughly. They couldn't deny it. I didn't go rogue. I didn't take cheap shots. I documented everything, and when the time was right, I showed my cards. The director sighed. This is going to require action. Translation: Richard was officially on the chopping block. They asked me to forward everything I had. Every file. Every timestamp. Every receipt. I gave them all of it, clean, organized, dated like I was submitting evidence to a courtroom. And then, as I stood to leave, the director said something I didn't expect. "You've got guts, Derek." I respect that. I walked out of that room knowing the tide had turned. The next morning? Richard was gone. No formal announcement. Just, poof. His office cleaned out. Desk empty. Slack profile deactivated. Word spread fast, terminated effective immediately was the whisper making the rounds. But that wasn't even the best part. A few hours later, I got another email. Subject: Leadership Opportunity Discussion. Attached was a calendar invite. From the VP. This wasn't just fallout anymore. This was a promotion in the making. So here I am, sitting across from the same VP who, just a week ago, was clapping along while Richard bathed in my spotlight. Except now, the energy? Way different. He wasn't talking at me anymore, he was listening. We were in his glass-walled corner office, the kind that screams power with its skyline view and espresso machine that costs more than my rent. He didn't even pretend to small talk. Just leaned forward with folded hands and said, "Derek, we underestimated you." I let that hang in the air. Because yeah, they did. "We always knew you were competent," he continued. "But we didn't realize just how much of this operation ran through you. Your presentation made that very clear." Translation: Richard had been exposed, and the higher-ups were scrambling to plug the hole in the boat before the whole thing sank. He leaned back. "I'm going to be blunt. We want you to lead the next phase of the transformation. Officially." I didn't even blink. "As in, project lead?" He smirked. "As in, departmental strategy lead. New title. More autonomy. Bigger team. And, of course, a significant bump in pay." I tried not to let my jaw hit the floor. See, this wasn't just a promotion. This was a throne they were offering me, the very one Richard had tried to steal. The difference? I actually earned it. I took a breath. I'll need that in writing. The VP laughed, nodding. Of course. And there's one more thing, we'd like you to present the full roadmap at the quarterly board review. Your work's too valuable to keep hidden anymore. Oh, now I'm valuable. I walked out of that office with a contract draft in my inbox, a new job title pending HR approval, and the kind of smug satisfaction that doesn't come often in life, the kind that tastes like poetic justice. But it wasn't just about me. After the meeting, I called Devin from IT. Remember when I said I owed you one? Oh yeah, he chuckled. What's up, boss man? Get your resume ready. We're building a team. Rachel was next. I walked by her office, leaned in, and said, "You ever think about moving out of HR?" She looked up, smirked. Depends. What's the offer? See, I wasn't about to climb the ladder alone. The people who backed me, the ones who believed in me when it wasn't safe, they were coming with me. This wasn't just revenge. This was a rebuild. A few days later, the announcement went out: Derek Castillo, Department Strategy Lead. The email was corporate and dry, but the buzz in the office? Oh, it was electric. People I barely knew were stopping by my desk, shaking my hand, saying things like, "It's about damn time." As for Richard? The only trace left was a half-used mug in the break room and a haunting memory of a smirk that aged like milk. And just when I thought things had settled, the final twist came from an unlikely source. Richard's former assistant. She cornered me near the elevator with a wicked grin. You'll never guess what he was planning before the meeting. I raised an eyebrow. She pulled out her phone and scrolled to a screenshot. An email draft Richard had saved but never sent. Subject line: proposal to transition Derek off key accounts. It was dated 2 days before the all-hands meeting. My blood ran cold, then hot. That snake wasn't just taking credit. He was trying to bury me completely. And he would have succeeded if I hadn't blown it all up first. You ever stare at a moment in your life so surreal it feels like you're watching it on TV? That was me, standing in front of the board of directors 3 weeks after the most savage mic drop of my life. I wasn't wearing a tie. I wasn't reading off a script. I was wearing confidence like a tailored suit, and I owned that damn room. The presentation? Smooth. Seamless. I broke down our wins, our losses, our future roadmap with the calm of a surgeon and the fire of a man who had everything to prove and nothing left to lose. Slide after slide, I painted the vision that Richard tried to plagiarize, only now, it had my name on every pixel. At the end, the CFO actually said, "This is the clearest we've ever seen the transformation strategy laid out." Impressive. The CEO added, "It's rare we see someone step up the way you did, Derek. You've set a new standard here." Boom. That was the moment I knew not just that I'd survived the storm, but that I'd become the storm. Now here's the real kicker. A few weeks after the board presentation, I got a message on LinkedIn. Richard. Yep. Man was brave enough to crawl back into my digital life like a cockroach under the fridge. Message read: Hey Derek. Hope you're well. I just wanted to say, no hard feelings. Business is business. Maybe we can grab coffee sometime? No hard feelings? I stared at the screen for a long time, debating what kind of nuclear response I should send. But then? I didn't reply. I just blocked him. Because the thing about snakes? You don't talk to them. You cut them out and keep walking. And that's exactly what I did. Since then, life's been different. I hired Devin full-time. Promoted Rachel to Director of Operations. My team? They're killers, loyal, sharp, collaborative. We're building something real. Something Richard could never fake. And me? I finally got my weekends back. No more thankless grind. No more late-night calls. No more playing the quiet genius behind the curtain. Now, I'm the one holding the mic. And every time someone asks how I got here, I just smile and say, my boss tried to take credit for my work. So I gave the department a story they'd never forget.